Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro. 1, 2, 3.
Oh yeah, what's up, Vegas? Happy Friday. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro, glad you could join us. Everybody should be in a good mood. Well, it's my Friday anyway, but it's Vegas, so if you're a dealer going to work, it could be your Monday, but I don't care. I don't care about you. I just care about me, and it's my Friday. Anyway, glad we can all be with you. A lot to get to, a lot to go over today. We're going to get to a little bit of hoops, a little bit of basketball. Usually we don't lead with basketball, but yesterday was the end of the UNLV basketball season, so we're going to talk a little bit about that coming up in a few minutes. This is going to be a lot of fun. At the bottom of the hour, this guy's awesome. First of all, let me just say, I love the Las Vegas Aviators. If you don't know who they are, AAA Baseball Ball Club, Jim Gemma, Don Logan, those guys over there who run this organization are fantastic. And Don Logan, who happens to be the president of the Aviators, will be joining us. Why? Well, besides talking a little baseball with him, the Chicago Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds are in town this weekend. And Major League Baseball, we had it last week. And now the Cubs and the Reds are in town in this amazing ballpark in Summerlin. So Mr. Don Logan himself, the Aviators president, will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. Coming up in hour number 2, this might not be a shock to many of you. See, you'll see how I use my words, JD.
That was actually really good.
Yeah, see how I do that? Mm-hmm. Well, his name is Aaron Schock, and he is a Republican lawmaker, 6 years in Congress. He has just come out as being gay. I think Mike Pence will follow him, but that's another story. But anyway, this guy has now come out, but the interesting part of it is at 6 years as a congressman, he voted against many measures supporting the LGBTQ community. So we got a guy coming on the show. His name is Adam Sank. He is a very popular podcaster out of New York who also happens to be gay, and he's going to tell us why he says this man does not deserve forgiveness from the gay community. So he'll be coming up in hour number 2. You know, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, their names have not come up that much recently, but they are now because they're both really opening up about Bill Clinton's sexcapades. They're out of politics now. You know, Hillary Clinton did an interview on the Howard Stern show a few months back. I actually enjoyed it very much because I thought we finally saw the human side of Hillary Clinton, and we're getting more of that now, and that's actually what I like to see. So that's going to be coming up in hour number 2. Hour number 3. I met this woman, this beautiful woman. She is extremely attractive and super cool to talk to, by the way. Her name is Tomi Lahren. If you don't know who she is, she works for Fox Nation. She graduated at UNLV. She's a household name when it comes to conservatives. Why? Well, she makes all these appearances all over the networks, whether it be Fox News, and she works for Fox Nation. And again, she is a graduate of UNLV. She lived here in Las Vegas for some years, and she's going to be joining us on the show, hour number 3. She's a conservative, obviously, and got a lot of questions to ask her, including some questions involving Donald Trump, the coronavirus. We're going to get into Super Tuesday. Who does she think has the best chance of beating Donald Trump? Would it be Joe Biden? Would it be Bernie Sanders? So Tomi Lahren will be joining us in hour number 3. I want to start by talking UNLV basketball. We went on the air yesterday, not to gloat, because, JD, you are a very good sports handicapper, better than me when it comes to pretty much every sport, except for, because you don't really dive into tennis and golf as much as I do. I'm pretty good with tennis and golf, but I'm talking all the major sports, you're better than me. I think I'm pretty good I'm not saying you're not good when it comes to college basketball. I'm pretty good at picking college basketball games. That's my forte.
You know, I would say that you have a better grasp of the Mountain West than me.
I'm pretty good
when it comes to
picking
college
games.
Basketball, and I'll give you that credit.
So yesterday, obviously, it was UNLV versus Boise State in the quarterfinals of the Mountain West Conference at the Thomas and Mack Center. And I said this is a bigger game for Boise State than UNLV. Why? Well, because I believe Leon Rice, the head coach of Boise State, on the hot seat. You can't lose in the quarterfinals of the Mountain West Conference and just underachieve every year like he has in the tournament. And for UNLV, you've had a decent year, but when you heard that Dimitri Long was out, a man who's averaged like 17...
Brian, it's Mitru Long.
17 points a game he's averaged in the last 5 games. And you learned that he was out, he wasn't playing, and that was a big issue for UNLV. But even if he was playing, I probably still would have picked Boise. But yesterday I picked Boise, and the reason why I did is I thought, it was just one of those situations where it was the right time for them. They're going to lose tonight against San Diego State. But that's why I thought Boise was going to win the basketball game. When we actually break down the game and we talk about what happened, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure it out. Obviously, R.J. Williams had a huge game for Boise State. He was the difference maker with 23 points and 15 rebounds. But UNLV did not help themselves at the free throw line. They missed a plethora of free throws.
They were actually 16 of 26, 61.5% from the free throw line, Brian.
You make 4 or 5 more of those, and we could be talking differently. But I was at the game yesterday. I got to say the UNLV crowd was not as good as it should have been. I know that some people were praising it. I got to tell you something. There's more New Mexico fans in there yesterday than UNLV fans. That should never happen. Should never happen. But, what's new when it comes to UNLV basketball? The students don't show up. The fans don't show up. We all know that. Maybe that'll change next year because I think next year is going to be a good year. We'll get to that in a second. But as far as the game goes, they got off to a lousy start. Offensively, they were not making shots. They didn't look crisp on the offensive end of the floor. Part of that is due to the fact that Long was not out there. Amari Hardy was absolutely terrible, and he is the heart and soul of this team. We all know Hamilton is their leading scorer. He's turned into their star player this year. But Amari Hardy is still your guard. He's still your superstar. He's the guy you rely on to create off the dribble. He had a really bad game. I thought it would come down to Alston. I think Alston was much more engaged yesterday than he was a few weeks ago when they played UNLV and got routed. Alston had a decent game, but certainly R.J. Williams was the star of the game. But again, when you look at this season, and by the way, there is no postseason for UNLV. They're not making the NIT. It's not going to happen. And I told you that, JD. And I know you were saying they make the NIT anyway. I'm telling you, there is no chance they're making the NIT. It's not happening. Boise State's going to be an NIT team. You could make the argument that Utah State is right on the bubble. If they make the finals and they don't win in the finals against San Diego State, they could be in the NCAA tournament. They could be an NIT team. I'm telling you right now, a 17 and 15 team, the NIT is not going to, the committee, they're not going to invite UNLV. It's not going to happen. And they're not going to accept an invitation to the CBI because it'll cost too much money. And I think the standards are a little bit too high for UNLV. And I asked TJ Otzelberger about that yesterday, and basically he said no. So no, I don't think they're an NIT team. I think that would have put this season over the top, and you could have said to yourself, great season for UNLV basketball. If they had won the game yesterday, I don't care what would have happened today. Great season, TJ. You're probably an NIT team, maybe, but now there's no chance. So it's one of those things where you say to yourself, it was an average season. It was certainly a better season probably than any Marvin Menzies season they had here, but it would have been nice if they could have at least gotten out of the quarterfinals of the Mountain West Conference tournament. So those are my thoughts. We're going to play an interview I had with Amari Hardy after the game, JD. But what were your thoughts on the performance yesterday?
Well, the performance was predicated on the fact that Mitru Long didn't play. Donnie Tillman also didn't play. They had to start Vitaly Scheibel, who is extremely unathletic.
He didn't play.
I understand, but they didn't really have. I think they had 6 or 7 total players, 2 of which were walk-ons in Marvin Coleman.
And Abake Jonga was in foul trouble the whole game.
Right. And they gave up 23 fouls. Boise State was 22 of 29 from the free throw line. R.J. Williams had 23. Jessup played fine. Alston played okay. Bryce Hamilton had 24 and 6. But it just came down to, they actually held Boise State to 3 of 15 from 3. They played well defensively. They committed way too many fouls. And Boise State won the line at the free throw line, or won the game at the free throw line, and UNLV lost the game at the free throw line, in my personal opinion. As far as the season itself, I think they should be an NIT team. That win in San Diego over an undefeated San Diego State team is the best road win in college basketball, in my personal opinion. But if they don't make the NIT, fine. I can respect the fact that they don't want to go to the CBI for expense reasons. But TJ Otzelberger had a very, very good first year, in my opinion, considering what he had. And now that he's bringing back, David Jenkins, Amari Hardy, Bryce Hamilton, Donnie Tillman, Mbaki Jong, Jonah Antonio. Marvin Coleman, pretty much everybody is back, and they bring in 8 freshmen next year, 4 of which are relatively decently ranked, rivals 100, rivals 150 type of guys. I think UNLV has a chance to win the Mountain West next year, and I believe if one of these recruits pans out, or if David Jenkins, if the hype on him kind of increases, or if a lot of different guys go pro, UNLV could be a top 25 preseason college basketball team next year.
I don't think I agree with what you said when you said they should compete for a title and they could be the favorite to win it all next year. I agree with that. I don't agree with what you said when you think they'll be a preseason top 25. There's no chance that they're going to be a preseason top 25. Now, if they get some big wins, I think they're in the Maui tournament next year, if I'm not mistaken. You get some big wins in that tournament, we're going to know real quickly how good this team is. But I do agree with you. They have to be one of the favorites next year, assuming everybody comes back. I saw a few people tweeting yesterday, a couple of Nimrods, saying that Amari Hardy was going to transfer. There's no evidence to back that up. And speaking of Amari Hardy, We had a chance to catch up with him after the game yesterday. I had a chance to talk with him. Keep in mind, this is literally 5 minutes after the game. So obviously, I'm not speaking to a very happy Amari Hardy. They should be disappointed, and they were. You could see the disappointment on his face, and you could hear it in his voice. But I had a chance to catch up with Amari because he had, listen, let's just call it for what it is. I don't want to trash the kid at all. I like Amari Hardy. He just had a bad game yesterday. He really was bad yesterday, and they needed his offense, and he struggled mightily. I mean, even a couple minutes left to go in the game when they needed his free throws, he put up an air ball at the free throw line. This is Amari Hardy we're talking about. An air ball at the free throw line. That's hard to do. Amari just was not engaged and did not have a good game. But I had a chance to catch up with him moments after the loss, Boise State yesterday. Here's that interview.
All right, we're here with Amari Hardy. Amari, obviously disappointed, I would imagine. Tough shooting night for you. Would you say more Boise's defense and their tenacity, or just a bad shooting night for you?
I would just say just bad night. One of my best games, unfortunately. I'll take it all upon myself. It was just me. It wasn't nothing that they was doing necessarily. Usually here. Yeah.
What was the difference? I mean, they come in here a few weeks ago. You guys manhandled them on this court. What was the difference tonight?
Man, it's just a win or go home situation. They probably came in here with a different fire versus when they did when they played this. Here they probably just took it as just another game. The season won't be over. So that's what I feel like that might have been the difference maker for them.
Is it fair to say first month of the season you guys struggled, then coach, holds you guys accountable, right? There were a couple games you didn't even start. Then the season, it seemed like to me anyway, turned around. Just talk a little bit about the season as a whole, your thoughts from beginning to end.
I feel like, from top to bottom, each and every player, we had our fair share of ups and downs. Like you said, at the start of the season, we didn't start so good. I feel like in the middle we picked it up just a little bit, then took a little dip, then we finished off pretty strong. I feel like those ups and downs that we had in the season, the adversity that we seen brought us together towards the end. I wanted to finish strong, and just unfortunately we weren't able to survive and advance tonight.
Talk a little bit, and I know this might be difficult now, but about next year. There's a lot of excitement now, certainly more around the program now maybe than there was a year ago, right? Obviously, you've got a pretty good two-guard that's going to be available with you next year, and a lot of people are saying you guys might have the best backcourt in the Mountain West. Can you just talk a little bit about, expectations for next year and your excitement for next season?
Expectations next year will be a win. Nonetheless, got some great guys coming in. Looking forward to playing with these guys and just enjoying the experience, because it can all end so quick. So you can't take none of the days for granted. And, days like this, you hate to see it.
Last question for you. How would you grade this season? Good, decent, average? I know it's tough after a loss, but guys did a lot of good things this year, especially that win on the road against San Diego State. I think they were saying one of the biggest wins on the road in over a decade. So talk a little bit about the season as a whole and how would you grade it?
I would definitely say this was a good season for us. Nobody expected us to finish the way we did. Nobody expected us to do a lot of things that we did. Under Coach TJ in his first year, I think we did some amazing things. We had a lot of new guys that came in, had some transfers. People probably didn't expect us to gel that well. Had guys role changes, guys had to step up. Sure. And I would call it a good season. Nonetheless, make it to the term, that would be considered a great season. But of course, a good season, I would call it though.
Right. Amari, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. That was Amari Hardy after the loss to Boise State. It's been a while since I said this. It's probably been close to a decade. But I think this was the first team that I saw. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and say it was a magical season or even a great season because I don't think it was. When you're 17-15 and you're UNLV, no matter what the circumstances are, that's not a great season. However, with that being said, this was TJ Otzelberger's first year, and I did think the coaching staff did a good job, and the future looks bright. So that is the positives. But with that being said, like I alluded to, this is something I haven't said in about a decade, and that is this team got better. From the beginning of the year to the end of the year, there's no question the coaching staff did a good job, and this team got better. I could not find you one season under Dave Rice or Marvin Menzies where I could look you in the eye or go on the radio and say, this team got better from the start of the season to the end of the season. Guess what that is, folks? Guess what we call that? We call that coaching. And I don't want to, harp on some of these past coaches. But Dave Rice and Marvin Menzies, there's a reason why they were both fired or let go or resigned or whatever the hell you want to call it. They did not coach. They didn't make these guys better. TJ and his staff made these players better basketball players from the start to the end of the year. Long was a guy that averaged 3 or 4 points over there at Texas last year, and he was scoring 17 points a game in a stretch of his last 5 games. I will say Amari Hardy, perhaps did not get better over the course of the year. He struggled.
And he's actually he's an overrated athlete. He's not as good of an athlete as people give him credit for.
But Hamilton really improved. He flourished under T.J. Otzelberger's
I don't think there
offense.
was a player in college basketball who improved more than Bryce Hamilton did over the course of the season.
And Jonah Antonio got better defensively. I think he's a better defensive player now than he was at the beginning of the year. The point I'm trying to make is this. They have a walk-on that is their starting point guard.
No, Brian, they actually played 76 minutes were played by walk-ons yesterday between Josh Green, Nick Blair, and Marvin Coleman. So considering the fact that T.J. Otzelberger only had 5 scholarship players to actually play with in this game, and over the course of the year, a lot of games he played with 2 walk-ons, sometimes 3 walk-ons because of injuries and just because of the fact that Marvin Menzies kind of left the cupboard bare. I think T.J. Otzelberger did an outstanding job considering the talent that he actually had afforded to him over the course of the season. And you're right, they did get better, and they did respect their coach because T.J. Otzelberger is a basketball coach, which UNLV has not had, in my opinion, since Lon Kruger.
Here's why I'm not using the word outstanding. The Mountain West. Hold on, let me just give you my answer before you jump in. The Mountain West sucks. It is an awful basketball conference. Okay, you have Wyoming now. All due respect to Wyoming, you have Wyoming in the semifinals of the Mountain West Conference tournament. A team that only won a couple games in conference all year. They knocked off Colorado State, which was an embarrassment to Colorado State. I think they're an embarrassment altogether, but I guess that's another story for another show. And then yesterday, I know this is going to make UNLV fans very, very happy. They knocked off Steve Alford and the University of Nevada, Reno. Wyoming did that. That's how bad this conference is. It's really bad, JD. Okay, yes, the win on the road against San Diego State was one of probably the best win on the road UNLV has had in over a decade. But this is a bad conference, JD, and their record is 17-15. I gave Coach Otzelberger, I give him and his staff accolades that they deserve. They did do a good job. I wouldn't say it was outstanding. It would have been outstanding if they got into the NIT tournament. I think that was very possible. They were put in a position to do that. If they beat Boise State, I think that could have been a part of the conversation. The NIT might have chosen them, but it's not going to happen now. So I'm not going to use the word outstanding. I'm not going to get crazy here. They did a good job. It was a decent year one. Very positive looking forward. I look forward to next year. They're going to be a really fun team to cover next year. We're going to see what TJ could do with the amount of talent that he has, which is going to be plenty. He's going to have the talent next year. You can't make any excuses next year. They have the talent to possibly be a top 25 team. They have the talent to win the Mountain West Conference next year. I don't think Nevada's going to be great. I don't think Nevada's going to be very good. I don't think Wyoming's going to be very good. I don't think Air Force is going to be very good. I don't think Boise State's going to be very good. You can make the argument San Diego State, some of those guys are coming back. They're going to be pretty good. Utah State, they're not going to be very good. They're losing their top 2 players. What team is going to compete with UNLV next year? I'm struggling to think about that. Next year, UNLV has to be the favorite to win the Mountain West Conference. I think Nevada is going to be decent next year, but there is no excuses next year. The excitement is now back around the program for next year. I think that's fair. I think it should be.
And you're going to see, because of T.J. Otzelberger's personnel that he's going to have next year that he hasn't had this year, you're going to see an exciting brand of basketball. This team is going to score consistently 75 to 90 points from day one, from the first game next year.
Well, I hope you're right. I'll believe it when I see it, because we heard the same thing when Dave Rice was hired. It was going to be the let's running Rebels. It was the let's not score points running Rebels.
Look at South Dakota State, where TJ coached for X amount of years. Those teams played an up-tempo, fast-paced brand of basketball, and that was David Jenkins. He led the country in three-point percentage.
He's a great shooter.
He's coming next year, along with, again, Bryce Hamilton, Amari Hardy, Chuck Mbaki Jong, Donnie Tillman, Jonah Antonio, Marvin Coleman, plus all the freshmen. they're going to go 12. They could possibly go 10 to 12 deep next year and not have them be walk-ons except Marvin Coleman, who I believe will be a scholarship player probably in the next couple of months.
Well, listen, if this was T.J. Altenberger's third or fourth year, I wouldn't say it was a good year. I would say it was a below-average year. But the fact that
I wouldn't say that either.
Right, but the fact that this is year one and he didn't have a ton of time to recruit and it's a new system for all the players and everything, yeah, I agree. I think he did a good job. Thought the staff did a good job. Yesterday was a really, really tough loss. That really could have put them over the hump as far as the season was concerned. It's not that I'm saying that Boise State is the number 250th ranked team in the country. They're not an awful team, but that was a game that UNLV really need to get.
Were they really going to win this game when you have 3 walk-ons playing a collective 76 minutes and the other team basically has 2 starting 5s? I mean, Boise State goes 9 deep and they have all year long. UNLV in this game, Vitaly Scheibel, who just is not capable.
He wasn't
of
a factor. They didn't play.
Right, Marvin Coleman, Nick Blair, Jong.
Listen, Jong
Antonio,
got the guys
Hamilton,
down low.
Hardy.
The guys down low got absolutely manhandled by R.J. Williams. And Jong got in foul trouble early. He actually fouled out of the game. That was a big factor also. He never was comfortable in this game. I think he only scored 1 or 2 points. He never was comfortable in this game. I think he needed a little bit more from Jong underneath the basket. He had a rough game. Amari Hardy had a rough game, and Long obviously wasn't suited up or playing. Tillman didn't get in the game. So, yes, the odds, no question, were stacked against UNLV, but when you look at the actual stats of the game, you say to yourself, if UNLV could just make some free throws, maybe they're able to squeak out a win in that game. They were in it the entire game. They just missed free throws down the stretch, and that was the difference maker, really. R.J. Williams on Boise State was the difference maker, and the fact that UNLV did not make free throws killed them down the stretch. And these types of games killed them. So if you're thinking about going to the Mountain West Conference tournament tonight, as I mentioned, Utah State is going to be in action against Wyoming. That is a surprise game. The first game is going to be San Diego State, and Boise State. I think San Diego State, if you want to know what I think is going to happen here, I'm taking the chalk. San Diego State's going to have no problem with Boise State. And I do believe that although Wyoming has had a heck of a run here the last couple days, I think it ends tonight against Utah State. The finals is going to be what everybody wants to see. That is San Diego State and Utah State. And I think in the end, it's going to be San Diego State that is going to win the trophy and win the Mountain West Conference tournament. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk with the Aviators president, Don Logan, Major League Baseball in Las Vegas this weekend. Don Logan coming up next. This is the Vegas Take.